So whatever we add, which is great, we have to do it in a way that it doesn't, make it really difficult, I think, for educators. How's that? And maybe Trustee Wilder, or Director Wilder, you might have talk about that. I know that some boards they interwove it in their English courses by having certain like what they read was Indigenous, or there's Keith.
I can start with that. Like one of the ways we have done a really good job in Blue Water in our secondary schools is through our Native Studies courses. And majority of our schools have made our compulsory grade 11 English, it's a Native Studies English. Okay. So, and we've had others, we've had their art course, and there's just different ones we've offered. So, and I think the enrollment continues to grow, and that's for all of our students. You were right, there was this, the government was talking about adding in more, and then I think when the government changed, they backed that away. So, but you're right, like, because sometimes the curriculum is being used for a lot of purposes, like mental health counseling, or we talked earlier about just things around sexual abuse prevention in different curriculums, or Indigenous. So it is tough on teachers sometimes, but if just Indigenous ways of knowing, if they are able to infuse that in the curriculum, that'd be fabulous. We just finished a session yesterday, and Keith can maybe speak to that, with Nigon Sinclair. He was there working with us, and it was fabulous, some strategic planning around our Indigenous plan. And he talked about really math and science are areas where we should be infusing Indigenous education, which is one that we hadn't really thought about as much. So he just said there's so many opportunities to do so. So he was sharing a lot of great ideas with us, because it's there are opportunities out there. And I might, if Keith, you might have more to add to that, just our time.
Yeah, I would echo the comments around NBE 3E, 3U, 3C, that course in particular. The Indigenous ways of knowing and thinking with respect to the secondary grade 11 English courses. We've had fabulous uptake in a lot of our schools, in all of our schools. So that's terrific. And then yesterday with Nigon, actually today he presented us with a draft Indigenous framework, and we're going to be bringing that to AC, and then planning to bring that to you as well to share the information. And the first thing we need to do is go back to our stakeholders, because a huge part of the day yesterday was about bringing stakeholders from both the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation and the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation. And we had elders there, we had students and parents and grandparents, and they were all there to help participate and offer their voice to what they want to see with respect to Indigenous education within the board. Nigon was extremely happy with the turnout and with the work that we were able to accomplish. It was a tremendous day, and I'm really proud of the start that we've made. It's not a finished product, and it will always be a draft product, because we'll always be working towards reconciliation and those calls to action. So, but we're well on our way. And thank you.
Okay, I really appreciate that. If there's any way, Superintendent Lefebvre, that I could get some of the information. I don't know if it would be ready by the AGM, just so I can speak to what our board is doing, and then maybe in support of what the Waterloo is recommending. I'm also going to read what the BC model is, because, and I know that we'll be hearing from the Indigenous Trustee Council. So anyway, I would appreciate that if there was a possibility, even though it's not anywhere near a finished product.
That would be my only concern, is that this really is, I haven't even had a chance to share it with the stakeholders that were part of the process yesterday. So if I sound like I'm feeling kind of possessive of it, I'm just trying to be really respectful of the whole process.
Well, anything.
Okay.
Anything, I will be gladly received. Is there any other comments concerning that one? Okay, so that's good. So then we move to the last one, the very last one. So this one came in later, and it's environmental determinants of student health and well-being. And the resolution is, be it resolved that OSPA's whole child and student well-being priority recognize the environmental determinants of mental health on student achievement and well-being, and that this be included in OSPA advocacy work, plans, and activities. Be it resolved that OSPA's whole child and student well-being and sustainable and equitable education funding priorities recognize the inequitable impact of climate change on Indigenous peoples, young people, and socially and economically disadvantaged populations, and advocate for local board efforts in addressing these inequities. And finally, be it resolved that OSPA's sustainable and equitable education funding priority advocate for dedicated carbon neutral capital and renewal funding targeted to reduce school board energy and transportation carbon emissions. It was, there wasn't obviously any comment from the executive nor the board of directors because it hadn't basically passed at that board. Go ahead, Trustee Morgan. Oh, you're gone. Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm still here. Hello.
Hi.
I think this one is a little bit outside of our parameters again. And if they're talking about transportation, we have a very large area to cover. And how do we move our kids without using diesel buses? Electric buses are just not going to cut it here in the wintertime. They just won't. The charges won't last. Anyway, that's just my little food for thought.
No problem. I appreciate it. And those are great thoughts. I think if I could add something here is that they might be, especially for that last part of their resolution, really be talking about capital builds. So I know that we often, when we do that at our board, right, we want to build it to that it's really energy efficient, and we even put in geothermal and whatever else. But I think what they're really talking about is that we actually be funded so that we can build buildings that are green. And what I mean by that is have that really high, I believe that if we have the superintendent of business on, I think it's the lead standard. Are you there, Rob?
It's the lead standard.
Or, pardon?
It is the lead standard, and it comes in a number of different levels, gold and silver, and it has changed considerably over the last 25 years. I'd have to get more information if you're interested in that.
Yeah, because I think that's, I totally understand about the whole busing thing, Trustee Morgan. But I think they were really talking about, getting actually adequate money to make our buildings really, you could say, whether sustainable, environmentally friendly or whatever. And that's what I think they're, pardon?
I just heard the transportation bit at the end.
Oh, I don't think. Okay.
And
oh, yes, you did. Yep.
I did. Okay.
Yeah, you did. You're right on. You're right there. Yeah. Yeah. We can't do any, well, unless we got rid, they don't have, diesel buses and we can get to electric buses, but that's a whole different ball game. And Trustee Dawson.
Thank you, Trustee Johnstone. The ministry is running a pilot project for modular buildings. I'm just wondering how that's going to affect this resolution and our builds in the future if they decide that modular buildings are the way to go. Have you heard anything about the progress on that?
No, I haven't. But it doesn't mean that modular buildings can't be also really energy efficient. So I think often when we think about modular buildings is we think about prefabs. Is that what you're thinking? You know, which we all know they were awful.
No. I've done some research on that, and there's some rather excellent technologies coming forward for modular builds that are very highly energy efficient.
Okay.
I have other concerns about this proposal by the ministry, but not dealing with energy.
Oh, okay. I would like to hear about that, Jim.
Okay, I'll send you a little blurb on that.
Okay, I appreciate it. And I did see that Rob's hand was up and then he took it away, but I was interested in his thoughts.
Certainly, just a couple things came to mind when you were discussing that. Certainly, when you look at diesel busing, let's remember that bus is carrying 72 students. That is a lot of cars off the road for carrying those students. So let's remember that anything that we do in terms of changing from diesel to something else has to be a delicate balance going forward. I would also say that, yes, depending on your building, when we get funding for a new building, we're not looking at putting asbestos into those buildings. We are looking at using the most modern, energy efficient materials, technology, and tradespeople possible when we build these schools. We know this, and we pursue this in the best interest of our school board, because we know the cost of operating a school is immense over the long term, over that 40 to 50 year period. And we know that that is an area that can get school boards into trouble very quickly for schools that are overbuilt or misbuilt. So we pay close attention to that. And if there is a funding opportunity, we would certainly welcome it. But right now, we use the funds for that in the really just kind of as elementary. That's just what you do when you build a new school these days. And again, anything with energy efficiency components and modular is a delicate road, especially when you're looking at the zero carbon based program and how that's going to look. And we do examine that with our architects and our designers going forward. But yeah, it's a big bundle of information for sure. Anyways, I just wanted to add that to the conversation. Thanks.
And I really appreciate that. And I'm going to bring up both your ideas, Superintendent Cummings and Morgan, around the diesel buses and the number of students and stuff. I also recognize, I'm going to say this, that oftentimes urban boards bring forward resolutions that perhaps rural and northern boards can maybe struggle with. It's not understanding maybe all the complications around their wonderful suggestions. So I appreciate your comments, and I'd like to thank you all for your time and your input. And I'm looking forward to getting information from Trustee Johnson, and I believe Superintendent Cummings and Superintendent Lefebvre. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jim, did you have a further comment?
Yeah, I just want to add something. When we were talking about the Beaver Crest or the Blue Water resolution, I just want to bring trustees in the loop here. I've received some communication from a councillor on the Grey Highlands Council. And the Grey Highlands Council has asked for a delegation at the upcoming AMO conference and to speak in support of our resolution and specifically the Beaver Crest build. So just so you're in the loop on that one.
Super. Thank you. I have a little aside there. I just want to make sure there is a ice cream fountain going in there.
You have to talk to Ashley about that one.
I will.
The cost edition.
Are there any other communications or announcements for tonight? I just wanted, Director Wilder, I was just going to say one thing. Do you want me to go ahead and then I'll give you the, I went to a play at Bruce Peninsula District School on the weekend, and our student senator, Mackenzie Zevenberger, was part of the play. And she was the person at the end of the play that got to thank the teacher that puts it on. And she brought tears, I think, to most of our eyes as she read her little speech. And the words that caught me the most was she thanked the teacher for, after 2 years, letting them have fun, laugh and have fun and participated in that. It was so moving. It was a fun play, but just the opportunity to see the kids on stage again and to know that our teachers are impacting them in such a significant way. I just wanted to share it with everybody. Director Wilder?
Thank you, Chair Thompson. I too had a very quick announcement. Myself and the academic superintendents had the opportunity to attend the Ontario Public Supervisory Officials Association conference last week. And I just wanted to, the title of the conference and the whole theme of the conference was Disrupting the Status Quo, an Anti-Oppression Approach to Educational Leadership. Why I'm bringing this forward, it was an excellent conference for us, great learning for us, but our student senator, Sean Banday, was actually selected to be part of the student voice panel. And there were 7 students selected. He was one of them. Their topic to talk about was understanding multiple dimensions of equity. So we there in our position were so proud to be sitting there listening to Sean respond to questions on a provincial level. So I just want to mention that. And I know he's not with us anymore, but we are very proud to have him speak on behalf of Blue Water and himself.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? Well, I thought this was going to be a really quick little meeting, but it was a really, there was lots of excellent information shared. So thank you, everyone. We have our trustee calendar of events that's been provided. It's getting pretty short, but take a look and see what you have left on your calendar to do. And that takes us to our adjournment, and we are ready to adjourn at 8:45 p.m. I see Trustee Dawson and a seconder, Trustee Morgan, and all in favor. And that is carried. And stay well, everyone. I hope you have a great couple of weeks.
Keep safe.
Safe
everybody.
home, everybody. Watch out for Bambi.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
I'm so excited to be here today for the official launch of the Smart Beach project, the first of its kind in North America. My name is Becky Smith. I was born and raised just outside of Port Elgin, and I have the pleasure of leading the work for the Municipal Innovation Council that is based out of the Nuclear Innovation Institute in Port Elgin. Thank you all for coming today. As I'm sure all of you are excited to see, summer is just around the corner, and for many of us that means heading to the beach as well as welcoming visitors to our beautiful beaches. I think it's also important to remember that the Great Lakes can change quickly and be very dangerous bodies of water. I'm really happy to be, we're really happy to be piloting this project in the municipality of Kincardine with Dr. Chris Hauser, who is with us today from the University of Windsor. And you'll hear from him in a few minutes to bring this innovative technology to Station Beach this summer. We've had an incredible response from the community so far. There's many people here that are passionate about not only the Great Lakes, but also keeping our beaches safe. So I'm excited to see where this project's going to go over the next 3 years as we pilot it here in Kincardine and expand to other MIC member communities over the coming years. So with that, I will welcome Doug Kennedy, a councillor from the municipality of Kincardine, to bring greetings and welcome everyone here today.
Thanks, Liz. Okay, well, it is exciting. You know, we all know how important beach safety is and all around our country. So this is really exciting to have them here first. They've got it written out in my script, but I'll start where I'm supposed to start. Thank you all for coming to the Smart Beach launch today. The municipality of Kincardine is excited to host this pilot project at Station Beach in Kincardine in conjunction with the University of Windsor's School of the Environment and the Municipal Innovation Council. This innovation, new technology, will not only benefit our residents, but also the thousands of visitors we see here each year. Safety is one of our top priorities, and we are fortunate to welcome this technology that brings real-time information on local water conditions that will improve beach safety. Now I wish to begin with our community's land acknowledgement statement. We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are meeting in the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which includes the Chippewas of Nawash, unceded First Nation, and the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation, whose ancestors were the first to inhabit, care for, and live on this land. We recognize and deeply appreciate the contributions that Indigenous peoples have made, both in caring for this land and shaping and strengthening this community, our province, and our country. As a public service organization, we are dedicated to learning and acknowledging Indigenous history and culture, and are committed to actions that move us towards a journey of truth, healing, and reconciliation with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the Métis Nation of Ontario, and the historic Saugeen Métis. And personally, I'd just like to welcome everybody here. Thanks for hard work so far, and look forward to the results coming forward. Okay, thanks, Becky.
So as I said earlier, I lead the work for the Municipal Innovation Council. The Municipal Innovation Council was formed back in 2020, and my colleague Jessica Linthorne is here, and she was quite instrumental in that, so I just wanted to recognize Jessica for that. And also Dave Shorey. So Dave was the first innovation officer for the MIC, so Dave, welcome, thanks for coming today. And Dave moved on and is now at Georgian College, so I had the opportunity to step into this role last October, I guess it was. But like I said, the MIC was formed in 2020. 8 municipalities across the county of Bruce came together to look at ways for cost saving, efficiencies, and really to deliver services better to their residents, all with the goal of building smarter, stronger, more resilient communities. We've had remarkable success over the last 2.5 years. The MIC has really proven to be a model that any community across Canada could benefit from. And it's allowed our municipalities to tackle problems that they just simply couldn't do on their own. I'm very thankful for the leadership of our council. It's made up of representatives from each of our member communities. So we have Sonia Watson there, the CAO of the municipality of Brockton. So thanks for coming today, Sonia. And also our chair, Kara Van Miles. So Kara is also the CAO for the town of Saugeen Shores. So Kara, would you like to come up and say a few words?
Thanks, Becky. Sometimes I'm loud enough without a microphone, so we'll see how this goes. I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. It's such a pleasure to see everyone here and be part of such a great initiative like the Smart Beaches. As Becky highlighted, I'm the chair of the Municipal Innovation Council, or you'll hear us refer to it as the MIC. The MIC is in its third year and is a partnership between 8 municipalities, including the County of Bruce, where we're looking at how we work together to come up with strategic solutions to shared problems. And that word innovation is really key to what we're doing. And so today is just a great opportunity to highlight one of our key projects, because nothing could be more innovative than looking at how we can use technology to inform our beachgoers on how they can participate and be safe along our waterfronts. One of the pieces around this project that's really impactful, I think, is that this is going to be a pilot. And what we're going to look at doing is taking what we learned here in Kincardine and transferring that knowledge to other municipalities, both here in Bruce County, across Ontario, and throughout Canada and further beyond. So today is really an opportunity for us to celebrate the achievements of this group for bringing this collaborative and innovative project to our region. And I just want to thank everyone for being here today and for helping move this forward. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Kara. So this project would not be possible without the expertise of Dr. Chris Hauser. So Dr. Hauser is the lead researcher on this project and an expert in coastal geomorphology. He has experience in coastal communities around the world in Costa Rica, Texas, Florida, Prince Edward Island, and now the Great Lakes. So we're really happy to welcome Dr. Chris Hauser here today and officially kick off this exciting project here in Kincardine at Station Beach.
Good morning, everyone. As introduced, my name is Chris Hauser. Dean of Science, as well as a professor in the School of the Environment and a member of the Great Lakes Institute for Environmental Research. And thank you for joining us for the launch of the Smart Beach project, and a way in which we're going to be able to bring current data to improve beach safety here at Station Beach and hopefully further. Now, this MyTax-funded project would not have been possible without the generous support of the Municipal Innovation Council, the municipality of Kincardine, as well as Bruce County, and many other community and industrial partners. Now, as Becky mentioned, the science behind this comes from more than a decade of research on the physical and social dimensions of beach safety in the Great Lakes and PEI, Texas, Florida, Costa Rica, and Australia. And what we hope to be able to do from this at Station Beach is to better understand how to improve beach safety across the entire province. Drowning due to rough surf and waves and currents is a public health hazard in the province of Ontario, and on average more than 50 people drown in the Great Lakes per year, and a disproportionate number of those drownings are in the province of Ontario. Now, it is estimated that about 80% of all the drownings in Ontario, as well as around the Great Lakes, are associated with rip currents that develop due to wave breaking, and either a current that is being deflected by a groin, jetty, or pier, or being redirected offshore by the configuration of the nearshore bar, or even just simply a large wave group that comes in, breaks, and then creates a current that will take people offshore. But unfortunately, very few beaches within Ontario, within the Great Lakes, in fact, have lifeguards, have beach safety programs, and in fact have any type of dynamic warning system that people are confident in that will tell you when and where to get into the water and what is considered to be safe. And so one of the things that's making this worse is that there's also a lack of educational programs in the province, and again throughout the Great Lakes, on beach safety issues, so that people are informed from grade school all the way up through to senior citizens as to what is considered to be rough surf so that we can protect them. Now, this project that we are putting together, we are going to be monitoring and modeling the weather, the waves, the current, the movement of beach users, and their perceptions of the hazard on the beach so that we can eventually develop a dynamic warning system that tells people when and where they can get into the water, when it's safe to get into the water, or when it's time just to relax and enjoy the sun out onto the beach, or maybe it's time to go downtown and enjoy the downtown area. Our first instruments were deployed yesterday. It's a little buoy that is a little about half a kilometer offshore, and we'll be deploying further instrumentation over. Information that we will have or get from these instruments will in fact allow us to create a dynamic warning system that again will inform beach users of where and when to get into the water and what is considered to be rough surf. Our ultimate aim is to reduce the number of drownings in the Great Lakes by creating this model here at Station Beach, eventually then moving that to other areas within Lake Huron, as well as across the entire Great Lakes region within the province of Ontario. So thank you for your support. Thank you to our partners and for everyone who is here today for this launch of this new program. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hauser, and thank you all for coming today. We'll be around for a little while afterwards if anyone has any questions. And you can also follow along as the project progresses over the next 3 years. So follow us along at smartbeach.ca. But anyway, thank you all for coming today, and we'll be around for a little while to answer a few questions.
I'd like to take this opportunity before we talk about our fourth Pride celebration, just to remind viewers how and why we got started. That back in 2016, we had a couple of so-called street preachers come from out of town and with megaphones and sandwich boards and just spread homophobic and misogynistic stuff into the streets, yelling at people, calling people names, intimidating, being aggressive, and people didn't want them. They were phoning the police, they were calling them out, and so on. And when I saw this in the paper, I thought, this is not the town that I've lived in and raised my family, and not the impression that I want people to have of our community. So I started reaching out to people and saying, what do you think that we have our own Pride Parade? And people said, wow, it's about time, it's a great idea, let's do it. And it was amazing. So yeah, it was like the original Pride was intended on a smaller scale, but as a pushback and a rejection of homophobic harassment, discrimination, violence, that type of attitude, especially in our community, which, as anyone who lives here knows, it's not representative of who we are here. Okay, now I know we've been through lockdowns and limited social interaction the last couple of years, but it's actually been 3 years since our last Pride Parade in 2019, because we were all planned for a celebration in 2020, and then we couldn't do it. So we did try to do some other things besides in-person events. We had some online events that people could do. We hosted and shared some other things like like window clings for downtown, and new T-shirts, and putting up flags, and encouraging community members and businesses to decorate. And it's still celebrate Pride and Pride Month. Even though we can't do it together, we can show that we're together in spirit and recognizing that it's important still. So yeah, we were still there. We never went away, and we looked for opportunities. Even in 2021, we were hoping for either a drive-by event or a drive-through parade kind of event where people could stay distanced, but we weren't allowed to hold those either. So we kept hoping and trying, but we're really excited. And Kincardine Pride, I believe, is the first festival off the mark for Kincardine this year. So we're really excited to kick off festival season and lead the way for the ones that follow, like the Highland, Scottish Highland Festival, and others after that. So we're really excited. So for Pride Month, probably by the time this airs, we will have had our flag raisings. On June 1st, we'll have our 6th, I believe, flag raising since 2017. We'll be raising, I believe, the Progress flag, which is a more inclusive and recent flag at the library flagpole, and we hope that'll be flying all month. We'll be raising that'll be on at 10 a.m. on June 1st. At 11 a.m. we'll be raising the transgender flag once again at the Davidson Center, and at 6 p.m. the rainbow flag will be raised at the Tiverton Fire Hall once again. So to include not just the town of Kincardine, but to recognize that we're a municipality and, cover a wider area, not just the town. So by the time this airs, that'll probably have happened already. So after that, we will be having a social at Bar Down on Saturday, June 18th, actually being hosted by Bar Down. It's their event in recognition of Pride Month, and we'll be having local entertainers. People will know David Uke, and he'll be accompanied by Dylan Trahane and Tanis Quinn entertaining that evening. So if you'd like to get out with some friends, call Bar Down and reserve a table. It's free and it'll be a great time. Also on Saturday, June 18th at 2 p.m., just over here in the Peace Park, Eric Cunliffe, instructor and owner of Shakti Yoga, will be doing a Pride Month yoga session, free, all ages welcome, outdoors, and more of a, nature appreciation, self-affirming type of session. So if you're new to yoga or experienced, come on out and just enjoy being outdoors and being together with other people. Following that, on Friday, June 24th, I'm going to bring in my colleague and fellow director, Gord Dunbar of Kincardine United Church, just behind me, to speak to our inclusive faith service, which will be happening the night before the parade. So.
Yeah, it's going to be held at Kincardine United Church. It's an ecumenical service that is affirming diversity within the community. I must admit that I have been fighting for equity around gender identity and sexual orientation ever since 1987. And so but basically ever since my first daughter was born, and she, unfortunately, she says, turns 39 this year. So, but the reality is that so often we don't have faith communities that come forward to support people who are on the spectrum, whether with gender identity or whether with sexual orientation. And we want to celebrate who people are. Because from my perspective as a minister, God celebrates all of us for who we are and who we continue to become. That's going to be the focus of the service.
Thanks, Gord. That's well before you were born. So getting into Saturday, big parade day. The parade starts at 11 o'clock. A new route this year will be assembling starting at around 10 o'clock. People are welcome to meet at Kincardine District Senior School. There will be parking there and opportunities to meet other participants and get in an order for our parade. And yeah, the route will go along Broadway to Queen Street and then through downtown once again to right here to Victoria Park. Maybe I'll show our poster, which I'm really proud of. It's a really great poster. I thank NPX for designing the poster for us. We'll have special entertainer Sedat, who is very well known children's diversity entertainer, LGBTQ advocate, mental health advocate. She's traveled across Canada, performed in hundreds of schools for hundreds of thousands of students over the years, and we're fortunate to have her in person leading entertainment right here in Victoria Park after the parade. So look for these posters, and they're available online for you to share as well from our social media. In addition to Sedat, we're going to have the people who were the hit of our 2019 Pride Parade. The Pine River Line Dancers are actually going to be line dancing through the parade, but they're also going to put on a half-hour line dancing demonstration and performance right here in Victoria Park after Sedat. And like I said, they were the hit in 2019, so they're thrilled to be back and do another great demonstration. We'll also have other activities for families, kids, like face painting. We're going to have food. The Lions Club is going to be barbecuing. Let's see, we'll have some vendors selling LGBTQ plus pride-related items, jewelry, clothing, and other stuff. So we're hoping to make it a great outdoor family fun day for everyone. Everyone can enjoy and just enjoy being together, being out, celebrating Pride Month, and showing that we are a truly inclusive, welcoming community like we've always been. So I just wanted to let you know, I just read this article from this travel company who does demographic research, and they have rated Canada as the #1 country in the world for safety for LGBT plus people to travel in and visit. So that is wonderful. Usually Canada often ranks in the top 5, but you know, this was a #1 rating, and I think that reflects really well on our community. Kincardine, I think, is a leader in our area, and certainly Bruce County for promoting inclusivity, diversity, being LGBT positive and supportive and welcoming. So that's good for everyone. It's good for the people who live here. It's good for youth. It's good for businesses. It's good for employers who are trying to attract skilled workers and talented people to work for them, because they'll feel like, yeah, I can go there. My family, my partners will be welcome there. So I think that's something we can all be proud of locally and nationally as Canadians, that we have become a world leader and being recognized by international groups and agencies as being so. So I think that's a wonderful thing, because in unfortunately, most parts of the world, people who identify as, or even if they don't identify as being LGBTQ, but are seen to be allies or supporters, they can be persecuted, prosecuted, threatened, or subjected to violence, imprisonment. And unfortunately, that is still the reality in most of the world. You know, we don't see that unless we go looking for that information, but that is the reality. You know, people who are gay, lesbian, bisexual, queer, especially in many other countries, they are persecuted. So I think we can be very proud of where we live and what the people before us, our trailblazers, have done at great cost to themselves. What I'd like to add is what I think I really started to notice last year during lockdown, one of the lockdowns, was that our community has really started to take ownership of Pride and Pride Month, and people were putting up their own decorations. Businesses even had decorations up in May in their windows before Pride Month, so that they could be ready. So it's not Kincardine Pride putting on an event. It's the townspeople, businesses, they've taken possession, ownership, leadership, they own it. Businesses like Bar Down and others, Shakti Rhythm and others, they're putting on events. Hey, we're doing this for Pride Month. You know, join in, we are welcome. We want to celebrate Pride and show that we're, that it's a great thing to have in our town. So that is really, I think, the highest level that you can achieve. It's not you putting something on. It's people celebrating, and you're giving opportunities for more people to join in and learn what it's about and feel included. So really happy about that.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
What kind of show do you want to see on Rogers TV? What interests you? Log on to rogerstv.com, fill out a show proposal, and tell us about your segment idea. We want to know what you want to see. Rogers TV, only on Rogers.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Welcome to HealthLink, a program connecting home, community, and healthcare. My name is Carol Merton, and today I'm delighted to welcome as a guest Jill Umbach. Now, Jill's official title, and you'll have to correct me, Jill, if it's changed, but is Planning Network Coordinator, Bruce Gray Poverty Task Force, which is part of the United Way of Bruce and Gray. Do I have that right?
That is correct. It's actually supported by Gray County, Bruce County, and the United Way, but I do sit in the United Way office.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. So welcome today.
Thank you.
We're going to be chatting about a couple of very interesting things going on. You always have lots to share, but specifically today, we're going to talk about the Basic Income Campaign. And within the last 24 hours of the taping of this program, the Vital Signs report from the Community Foundation Grey Bruce has come out regarding housing. So I'd be most interested in information you can share about that. So tell me a little bit about the Basic Income Campaign. When I pulled out some of the information from Bruce Gray Poverty Task Force, there's a triangle there about income solutions and economic prosperity. I did some homework, Jill. and I need to understand the difference between a basic income guarantee and a living wage.
Okay. So many of us know that a basic income or a guaranteed income is something that we actually already have in place for targeted vulnerable populations. So for example, if you're a senior and you're living below the poverty line after, say after retirement, you will receive a guaranteed income supplement. So that is in place right now. GIS is what it's casually called, the acronym. So many seniors will be familiar with that extra little bit per month that helps you get by. And that's when you drop below a certain threshold, then you get a supplement. And that is in place right now with the federal government.
Okay.
In addition, we have the child tax benefit. So the old mother's allowance, that is a guaranteed income supplement for families with children. Okay. And that is to cover your costs of living. We know it's always not enough, but it's certainly things that we have had in place for a very long time as part of the safety net for low-income families. And we know that the impact of both of those supplementary programs has been more people are above the poverty line than would be otherwise. Yeah. So what happens is when we consider people that are in the working age category, right? People that should be able to go out there, get a job, make enough money, pay for their housing, whether it's purchasing a house or simply paying rent, covering all those things for your family. And that is something that we're having a challenge with, because we know right now people are not making enough money to cover the cost of living. Everything's going up price-wise. And so what we're looking at right now is we have a lot of Band-Aid solutions. So we know that, especially under the pandemic, we have agencies that will give you food from the food bank, from the community meal programs. We have a range of other great charities that are helping people to stay afloat. You're not getting ahead, you're not building a boat, but you're staying afloat, right?
Yeah.
What we're looking at is the money that the government has invested in response to so many people in need. We are talking right now about what happens when you actually put the money up front first, and you support people at the get-go. We saw with the CERB, which is a type of guaranteed basic income, the calculation for that CERB was much higher than Ontario Works or Ontario Disability Support Program, which is the social assistance for people who are either unable to work or temporarily in circumstances where they are not making enough income to pay and cover their rent and everything else. So we know various parts of this. We also know that paying people initially a basic income also allows them to make choices that are different than if you're on the other end. So, you know, when charities reach out and support, we're not giving a lot of choice to people, right? You're going to be grateful for what you receive. Yeah. And that's not a very dignified way sometimes for people to make choices. We know that it's much better if you have your own salary. I think every teenager knows what it's like to have your own money and not have it managed by your parents. In the same way, we are looking at people with income coming into them that is sufficient to be able to secure a good rent, to be able to make some decisions maybe about going back to school, taking more opportunities. We know that a lot of the scenarios are not the same. You may have temporarily lost a job, and so you have, you know, things that weren't planned for, unexpected losses of income, you know, can really impact even in the best circumstances, no matter where you are, you know, whether you've got middle class income or whether you're lower, you know, depending on where you're at, the impact of a loss of income can be greater or it can be smaller if you've got a reserve of funds. So we know that the lower in income you have, the fewer resources you're going to have, and then it's harder to make plans. It's harder to come back from a setback. And it's harder to manage transitions if you're having to spend your time running around and accessing resources. So if we were to look at a basic income or guaranteed income, it would mean that you would get assessed with your taxes. And the same way the GIS or the child tax benefit operates, you would get that supplement. It would come directly into your account. There wouldn't be anybody, judge and jury, monitoring to see if you're deserving. It would be an income solution. It would not be a charitable application. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about a basic income guaranteed. When we talk about a living wage, this is a calculation that is different than the minimum wage. So the government regulates minimum wage for various sectors as well as age categories. And a living wage is calculated, and it's usually done by organizations that are certified by Living Wage Ontario. In our case, for our area, it's the United Way that does the calculation, the United Way of Bruce Gray. And it takes into consideration all of the costs, housing, a vehicle, because we need transportation. In the cities, you know, the transportation is 2 bus passes versus what we have to do with a car and maintenance and gas prices. So it really is tied to the cost of living. And then it's very specific to the area that you live in terms of what the rent prices are, what the housing is. And so it comes up with a living wage, which means what is it that you need to live on to have a decent life? In our area right now, the living wage is anywhere between $20 and $22 an hour, which is significantly higher than what the minimum wage is. At $15.25, it'll only go up. And the living wage is tied to the cost of living.
So how often would that living wage be adjusted? I mean, that's quite a discrepancy.
It is, yeah. Because the living wage also includes some of the costs that it might be to, say, have a Y membership so your kids can take swimming lessons. So part of that cost also involves the basics, but then a little bit more for being able to be involved, to be included in our community. So I think it has a basic Y membership in there, or it has one local trip holiday included, not extravagant, very, very basic. But yeah, there is a big discrepancy, and it's calculated every year. So it's not something that's static and stays there. And so it will be, you will see Simcoe Muskoka release it, the City of Toronto or the City of London, and you will see differences between the area based on what their calculations are.
So when you were chatting earlier, certainly about the basic income guarantee, in the document I'm referencing, you say we need income solutions to overcome setbacks, stay well, manage transitions, and create opportunities. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a bit about the staying well? Because we're we're focused on health and well-being of our communities, but we're also individuals in the community.
Yeah.
So what does it mean, the staying well and the income solutions?
Well, we know that poverty is one of the single largest determinants of health. So we know that if you don't have enough money to buy food, healthy food, it will impact on your health. If you don't have a job that provides benefits, then the challenges for purchasing medication, for accessing regularly going to a doctor, the transportation costs might not be there. You might not have the funds to drive. In our area, quite often you are going to London, or you're going, if you get involved with a very serious health issue, then your insurance won't cover everything. Dental care is a big one. Oral health is significant and is tied to your heart health, and it impacts on you. If you're dealing with chronic pain and you don't have the money to deal with medication, or with dental surgery, it's extremely difficult. I know personally I had to pay for my daughter's root canal, and my insurance, I have full insurance, but it only paid a small portion of that. Mm-hmm. Somebody who has no income and can barely pay for their rent isn't going to spend money on dental care. And we know how critical. People will resist going into hospitals if they know there will be bills that need to come out of that, right? They'll leave, but they won't go to the pharmacy. We also know that, a lot of the people experiencing food insecurity, it's not about getting more food sometimes. Yes, there is a physical need, but it's also, we know that only 1 in 5 Grey Bruce households that are food insecure, we know that less than 20% of them will actually go to a food bank. So there's a dignity aspect to this as well. We know people avoid situations because they don't have enough money, so they don't even go. Why bother making that appointment? Because I know he's going to give me a prescription. I don't have coverage for this or that. So it has a huge impact on your health. Mental health. We have wait lists right now for people to get into treatment. We have wait lists for people to get into addictions treatment. And so it's very challenging. If you don't have the money to pay for private services to speed up that access, then you have to get into, scenarios. People also have had, bad experiences at the hospitals, like they're reluctant to go. So we do see a lot of that. I would say, though, more than anything, we still have a shortage of doctors. We still have people that are street involved that just will they will avoid anything in the formal medical scenario. So that's one of the reasons why the SOS mobile pilot that's underway in Grey County is so critical, because they are meeting people where they are at. They are going to the people. So that's a real change from trying to convince somebody who's perhaps got an addiction or a mental health experiences, how to get them to hospital, how to get them treatment. There's a real gap in doing so. And there's a bit of a revolving door in that you can go in, and if you don't have follow-up support outside, then you might not be following whatever the ER doctor told you to. And then you're just using that as a bit of a revolving door. So there is a challenge for doctors that will work with street involved people and to work with our homeless population.
I have a question, but first I want to read, because we are in an election year. Not to put you on a hot spot, but I'm just reading from the document. it says we can pay for a guaranteed income for all. It is a matter of political will. So how do we influence the decision makers who will make the funds available and release those funds? What needs to happen?
Okay, so there's two different layers to that. In the Ontario election, what is really coming to the forefront is that we did have previously, under the Liberal government, there was an Ontario basic income pilot started. It was to be a 3-year pilot to test it. Does it work? Should we be investing? How do we shift? And it was really looking at a time when we were also looking at a social transformation of the way we do social assistance. Then at the same time, not the same time, when the Conservatives came in, they canceled it. So we were 1 year into the pilot. So the information that we have is from 1 year into a pilot. And at that point in time, we did see and were able to record the impact in 1 year on the participants. Wow. So in particular, the Hamilton Poverty Reduction Roundtable had a basic income supports where they really worked with a lot of local people to get them signed up for the pilot. And to support them while in the pilot. And they were able to take the stories and the lessons learned from it. And they were able to show that even within 1 year, many people made new investments in their lives. They were able to move to a better standard of housing. They were able to eat a better quality of food. And in many cases, they were able to either invest in a vehicle for a better job, but they also, a lot of them took opportunities to go back to school, and they felt confident they could pay their school loans. So it was just that sense of movement and opportunity. So there is, that was the political will at the time, was we'll have this pilot, we'll evaluate it, and then once the pilot is done, we can say, yay, what's it going to take? That was stopped. And now what we've got is at the federal level, the NDP party has put a private member's bill forward to look at a framework for it federally and nationally. The parliamentary budget officer in 2022 this year was able to estimate what it would cost. So the gross cost of it would be like 81 billion. But they also examined the existing cost of social services. So the response afterwards and how much it's actually costing. So they were saying there's about 30 billion of federal and provincial tax credits could be replaced and deducted from this gross cost. So they're estimating it to be about 51 billion. But one of the big things is that the last price that quote I got was around 2008, that it cost in 2008, quite a few years back, 73 to 86 billion years to respond to people in poverty. So that's with our healthcare, our justice, and our social services systems as they exist back in 2008. So that was the estimate back then. We can only imagine that it's increased. So we're actually spending a lot of money right now to provide social services to people. It won't completely go away. There will still be people that always do need that wraparound support services, but there are ways to redistribute it. The one thing as well that has been calculated is the lost productivity too. And so there's a lot of people that are out of the market. Both the job market for a variety of reasons. And that goes back to the living wage. Some of those reasons are the jobs that are available are precarious jobs, which means that they either don't pay enough, don't have enough benefits, or they are something where, for example, if I wanted to live and work in Thornbury, the housing costs are so high. But there's lots of jobs in Blue Mountains. But again, the housing cost for that area is so high, I can't afford to live and work in the same place, which means I need to have a vehicle, and it's all compounded. Yeah. Whereas if I were to look at a guaranteed income, I would know what I wouldn't be falling back too low. It would give me that space and opportunity to either go back to school for a better job, or it might allow me to spend a little bit more money on gas in a car to get to work.
You know what really amazes me is even though the pilot was to have been for 3 years, results were evident within year one. That's a very impressive turnaround and an opportunity. So if the investment was made in this, it would be anticipated the reward, the results, the response would be quite quick. And that's not often what can happen when you make a change in programs. So that's quite remarkable.
The other aspect to that was, you know, a lot of people make the assumption, well, you know, those people will just sit at home and do nothing. And in fact, that's not what was happening with the majority of people in the study. They weren't just sitting home. They were taking advantage of finding better opportunities for their family, whether it be living conditions or whether it would be schooling or even feeling safe enough to switch jobs to something that was a better job for their family.
So that's really a myth. What you've described is a street myth, really. And for sure, people will say, well, why would we pay them to stay home? And what you're saying is the study has shown that's not the case.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I would say that, you know, one of the biggest challenges we have right now with the current operating system is there isn't enough time to do the support and the wraparound support that is needed for those people that need that extra help.
Right.
And I think that a basic guaranteed income would further separate the ones that just need some more income to get going and those that would identify, no, I really need more social services support. And so part of the social services, human services transformation is to move back to doing more social work and less paperwork.
Yes, which benefits those who need it the most. So the question I had is around the Indigenous people, because one of the pages says poverty is not neutral. And I'm wondering if you can discuss how the impact is and whether there's a disproportion in how poverty affects our Indigenous communities.
Sure. Our group, we have a basic income working group within the Poverty Task Force, felt it was important that as non-Indigenous people, it was important for non-Indigenous people to take responsibility, right? And just say it, that the impact of poverty on people, Indigenous people, it was a direct result of both the colonial laws as well as federal laws. So that is not an individual choice. It's not a community choice. It's something the government chose to do. And we did it for a variety of reasons, both economic and cultural and everything. But what it did do is it stripped people of both their traditional lands, language, livelihoods, their culture. And in many cases with the residential schools, we took away children. And children were cut off with that and children died. 40% of Indigenous children live in poverty. So we do have a disproportionate number of people, children and people. 25% of Indigenous people in Canada live in poverty. It is higher than non-Indigenous people. And we know the impact of the residential schools. We know the interruption, the generational trauma. So there's a lot more involved with that in terms of what has to be unpacked. But we wanted to make a strong statement in saying poverty is not neutral.
Yes.
It is very political in the case of Indigenous people.
And that's a very important statement. Before we go into the housing, it also says that Indigenous women and girls are 12 times more likely to be murdered or missing than any other women in Canada. And that's an important statement, I think, for sure. So we've got about a little less than 5 minutes in the program. And the Vital Focus report on housing, and I'm just going to hold it up here, was released within 24 hours. There's so much in this, Jill, but maybe you can explain your takeaway from it and what you'd like us to really focus on in the next while.
So what we've done with this report, and it really is, I know that the Community Foundation and Vital Signs, and thanks to the sponsor for this report, it started with a conversation, an online public conversation, with many partners who were speaking to it. Rent Safe pilot spoke a lot. The county spoke in terms of the county's housing and homelessness strategies. Deanne spoke from Giway. So we had a lot of conversations, really talking about what is affordable housing, what is attainable housing, all of the dynamics. An incredible team pulled together data from various sources, and this is local data, and it's so important that we talk about the local context, and even then talk about the differences between housing in Tobermory, housing in Saugeen Shores, housing in Meaford. We know that even within Grey Bruce, we have differences in our municipalities. So this report looks at the data, listens to the conversations, and then also our keynote speakers are all tied to very important programming that has been happening for a while. But a lot of it has come and gelled under the pandemic as well, because we've had so much more of the emergency programming happening. So that's all collectively brought into a 27-page document. It's pretty intense. In some cases, you get a couple of lines for a massive program, and in other cases, we've teased out and highlighted larger stories. And behind every story, there's data. And behind that data is a lot of communities talking about the need for more affordable housing, the need for more affordable rental housing, and then what are the living standards that we want to have for our community.
I think the recognition for me as I look through this is that we have a lot of work to do over the next few years to be able to assist our communities in having housing that is housing security and a house for all. How will you be involved in the future, Jill, with this?
I sit on the Vital Signs Advisory Committee. So just in terms of where we're going with Vital Focus and Vital Signs, we'll continue to use this platform to get to speak to the larger community. And I think what we're really trying to do is to promote a yes in my backyard attitude, right? So not, we don't want people saying, yeah, that's all great as long as you do it over there. Or, it's really good for Owen Sound, but we don't want to have it in Saugeen Shores because we function differently. So what we'd like to do is to see a lot of the work that's been done, the conversations, the recommendations, to spark innovation, to spark new ideas. It's important that we have people with lived experience talking about the reality of what it's like to rent in this current market, housing market, because it's brutal. We have big issues around homelessness and housing. Where are we going to put people? We simply have no place. So we have to come up with alternatives. We have to come up with more engagement and understanding around what is the housing crisis that we have in Grey Bruce right now.
So absolutely, we need more conversation. And Jill, I look forward to having you on the program to help us as we move through this. I really appreciate the time with you today. It always goes so fast. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Carol.
Thank you to our viewing audience for joining us today to learn more about resources, services, and programs that are available to you and to your family. Take care and stay safe. Thank you.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.